London podcast. And as they say, you would call these podcasts from anywhere. I mean, I've literally just dropped my daughter off at Middlesex FA Rectory Park in Ruislip, and I've walked down the street and I found a little boozer. If you're from this part of West London, you probably know the Blue Orchid. I've come in the Blue Orchid and I've set up my equipment in the corner, and they've looked at me thinking, what the hell is going on here? And I'm looking at Laney here on the screen, and he's set himself up in Egypt. So we've got one person in Ruislip, another person in Egypt doing a podcast on Brentford. That is modern technology for you. Laney, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah. I was kind of a euphoric 48 hours. I watched my team beat Liverpool and went home,
And then
went to bed.
Went to find a camel. Went to find a camel,
yeah. Thought I'd come over and see if I could find Mo Salah, because he was missing on Monday night. I didn't see him at all, so I thought he might be over in Egypt. So I've seen plenty of shirts with Salah on the back, but I kind of only saw him from a distance. He wasn't his most effective game for Liverpool, but
Nah.
I'm sure he'll make up for it up at Anfield. But we can worry about that another day.
We can definitely worry about that another day. And like I said to you, listen, we're going to just shoot the breeze today because we've got a FA Cup game against West Ham coming on Saturday, which we'll talk about a little bit. But I think we've got bigger fish to fry. More things to talk about at the moment now. And we played West Ham last week, and as we said, can we play you every week? As we were singing to them when we went to their West Ham stadium last week, and we got our wish, because we are playing them every week, because we're playing them again on Saturday. Like I said to you, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's just go back to the weekend, or just after the weekend, because it's actually a Monday. It felt like a weekend as well. That Liverpool game, again, it's we've had some fun this last year and a half as Brentford fans. We've taken a pee out of Arsenal and Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, and then we've got and West Ham. We've beaten them a few times, and other teams as well. But this one, this was pretty special. And I'm just wondering, Laney, where does this rate in your list of Brentford Premier League scalps, days out, laughs, whatever you call it?
Well, it's quite it's up there. Liverpool have been described as being awful on the night, and we'll talk about the press's reaction to Liverpool versus they were awful. A few of them said we were great, but not many. It's normally been fan channels. The Liverpool fan channels, I think, have been excellent. They kind of they tipped the hat properly towards Brentford and given us our dues. But I think it's got to be top 2 or 3. It's got to be in the top 3. And I think it's like if you had a top trumps, remember the top trumps at school, the card game, you used to be able to pick, a topic and just say like horsepower, and if it was the car one, whoever had the most would win the card. The Brentford top trumps, I reckon Liverpool has got to be 7 out of 10, whereas Man City was proper 10 out of 10. So I think it's below Man City, but it's above. I think for me it's above Arsenal. So yeah, I think.
So it's interesting. So Man City for you was the top, was the number one.
Yeah, well, Chelsea, and Chelsea were world champions, European champions.
No, they weren't European champions. Leeds were European champions.
Oh, of course. Sorry, mate. Oh God, I'm just so silly. Leeds. How can I overlook them? Yeah, no. Chelsea that season, they held all of the sort of like the big gongs, didn't they? So to have beaten them, I think that was going to be one of the pinnacles. But that and Man City, is a fag paper between the two of them. So Liverpool's a bit below that, but again, we do keep saying it. It was another one of those never in my lifetime moments did I expect to be witnessing this. And I think the Dutchman said afterwards that this isn't a cup game. This isn't sneaking through on penalties in the Carabao or doing them in the FA Cup when they had a weakened team. This was a proper Liverpool team fighting for league points. and they're challenging for a top four position. So we've beaten one of the best clubs in Europe, and we should be immensely proud of that. And for me, it was just a night to be just so proud of Brentford Football Club, and to share that with to stood next to you when we've stood in some real dog shit places all the way around Britain, and to be there watching that, it was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just take up for me. I'm going to strip away, because the thing about it is everyone goes, "Oh, Manchester City." You look at their status and you look at the players that they've got, Haaland, and the fact that they're basically Qatar owns Manchester City. So you look at it from that perspective and you think, "Oh, that's really great," and that's almost like sort of quite a corporate way to look at it. But I say for me, I'm taking away all of that, and I'm just thinking about the actual experience, and going into a stadium and seeing your team win or not win or whatever else you do. For me, I'm still thinking about it over this past 18 months. And for me, Arsenal was magical because it was the first time and we weren't really expecting it. And it was just brilliant. And we just come out of COVID and it was just magnificent. And we battered them. We bashed them right up. And the atmosphere was amazing. And I thought that was really, really good, But then for me, this Liverpool win was right up there with the Arsenal. I still put Arsenal above this one, but this Liverpool win was right up there. And I think that's what's taken away from it, was the fact that we've seen quite a few now. We've seen the Man United and all that. We're almost like getting used to it. But for me, we don't want to sort of rest on our laurels or anything. But for me, as an experience, I'm thinking actually this Liverpool game, the fact that we went out there, the fact that we dominated, the fact that we went 2-0 up, the fact that we were singing, the fact that they were really quiet, the fact they got their goal and they thought they were going to come back, but then we just did them again. For me, it was just, and it was on our own turf, and it was a 5:30 kickoff, and it's just after Christmas. For me, I thought that was up there. That's better than Chelsea for me. It's better than Manchester City for me. It's better than a lot of these other games which are right up there, and it just goes to show you what a good 18 months we've been having.
And this, I mean, it's the framing of it is everything, yeah. The emotion, but the first win, the first game of 2023, we finished the season so strong, and you kind of hope that you can continue it. And there's no reason to suggest that it wasn't going to continue, but it's witnessing it and seeing it and kind of breathing a sigh of relief. Right, okay, 2023 has got every chance of being as big as 2022 was for us. And the players, I'm just constantly taken aback really by the spirit, by their determination to just not let reputation or the name or the players that they're coming up against phase them. We are there on merit, and the players that are there are there because that's the right level for them. And it is incredible. It's an immense achievement for us to have put that squad together. And we are every bit as good as these best teams. Whether we can carry, we got to then carry it on over the course of a whole season, rather than sort of like, the last 6 or 7 or 8 games. It's just, let's not forget, it's the same team pretty much, apart from Norgard wasn't there, that lost heavily to Aston Villa. But you are going to get that in this division. Each team is, apart from a couple, are capable of on their day putting in an incredible performance. So for us to have gone to West Ham and won, and for us to have beaten Liverpool, and then on the back of the games going into the Tottenham draw, it was a brilliant, almost the perfect Christmas New Year. And I think it actually suits us that we've got a week off from league action again, so we can just kind of like do whatever in the cup. And obviously it's a game we want to win as well, but that pressure's not there, and we can kind of like just take a bit of a break from league action, and then come back and build systems go again for the next game against Bournemouth.
Yeah, I mean, we talk quite a lot about stats on this show because we were a club that was based on stats. And it's interesting because Liverpool are a team always that you look at, and you look at how they play, and you sort of say, well, we'd like to replicate that because they're so good at what they do. But what was really interesting about this game, I mean, I know that Liverpool had a ridiculous amount. I mean, I haven't got the possession here at the moment now, but I think they had about over 70% possession in this game. Okay, so they're over 70% possession in this game. However, what we did, what is it? 60%. They ended up with 60% possession. We had 40% possession. You know, it was 70% at one stage. Okay, so they had the ball a lot, but again, it's what you do with the ball. Okay, but interestingly, from an XG perspective, Brentford 2.51 against 1.97, which was Liverpool as well. And if you look at the Bees breakdown as well on besotted.com as well, you know, the Gowler and his crew, they do a nice little breakdown of how we actually took Liverpool apart there, which is really, really interesting. But the fact that we got 2.51, okay, and if you look at it, if you look at that map, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 massive bubbles in the penalty area as well, and a load of smaller ones as well. Whereas Liverpool have got smaller bubbles in our penalty area. Obviously, they scored with one, it's like that. So we not only restricted them to probably 2 very good chances, which we obviously dealt with as well, but we also created a lot against Liverpool, which is something that they weren't expecting. And it's interesting because you know, a lot of people are talking about, you know, Klopp, as to whether or not Kloppy was respectful or disrespectful to the Bees, you know, and I suppose it depends on if you listen to his whole interview or if you just listen to clips of his interview, whether or not you decide whether or not he was or he wasn't. But the fact is that you see some of the Liverpool fans who are moaning that we are like Stoke, as they say, and we are Route One, you know. But interestingly, Liverpool actually played the ball a lot more direct. I mean, they changed the way that they played in the second half, and they actually played the ball a lot more direct in the second half than they did in the first half. And I don't know if it's because they thought, we're not being effective in what we're doing in the first half. We're getting battered here, and we need to change what we're doing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but the VAR chances, the offside ones, they wouldn't have counted in our XG numbers. Is that right?
I think that is correct as well.
So,
you know,
so we were a lot more dangerous than even the XG suggests. You know what I mean? You know, if they'd have just gone wide, our XG would have been off the charts. I think. So yeah. I mean, and again, you know, you've got to look at those VAR incidents and the excitement and the drama of the game as a whole. And I don't think you can have any game in the Premier League that was, you know, in our time here so far, that's been as exciting as that. Incidents, left, right, and centre, goals that, you know, they had a goal that was disallowed. There, you know, the Ben Mee clearance off the line, and, you know, again, it won't count because I think it was offside. But the David Raya save, where he tipped it, you know. Gordon Banks flicked it up and over the bar, and it landed on top of the net. It was just a save for the future, and, you know, again, that won't be counted as a save, and it won't be shown on many of the highlights. But again, it shows you what a brilliant goalkeeper he is. You know, we'll talk more about David Raya a little bit later on in the show.
Let's talk about him now, because again, it's just this. Let's just go with the flow, because obviously David Raya, a big key player for the Bees. Obviously, don't want him to leave. I mean, we were talking about whether or not David Raya is going to, you know, whether or not he's going to renew his contract. We've got no idea whether or not he's going to renew his contract or not. But the thoughts are that, you know, a player like him, he went to the World Cup, okay, didn't play. You know, he's going to have some big clubs after him, especially probably big international clubs after him. And are we going to be able to get hold of him? But then we've got this Strakosa situation as well, with who's our second in line goalkeeper, who's not happy with the lack of game time he's been getting, is he, Laney?
No, it's a bit of an odd one, this Strakosa deal, because he arrived from Lazio in the summer, which, you know, it was a bit of a headline signing. I think he arrived on a free, but we'd obviously be paying him a lot in wages. So I assume that he knew the score, not unless, you know, David Raya was on the way out at that stage somewhere. But I doubt that. I don't, you know, there's been no noises of that happening. As far as I know, the last club that seriously came in for Raya was Arsenal, and they weren't prepared to pay anything near our valuation. It didn't really go anywhere. You know, Raya's contracted to Brentford to the end of the 23-24 season, so it's not like he's out of contract this summer coming. And according to a couple of those, data, the statty kind of websites, he's on 1.3 million a year at Brentford in wages. So, it's 25,000 a week. There's obviously a lot of scope there for a pay rise for him. And in return for a contract extension. So I'm hopeful that he'll stay. And the story coming out of Brentford tonight is that Strakosha's been given permission to find another club, whether it's a loan deal or a permanent deal, in this January transfer window, so he can go and get first team football. He seems to be frustrated, but as I said, he must have come knowing the score. And to be honest, he's been injured a fair chunk of the time he's been here as well. So I'm not quite sure where he thought he was going to get extra minutes, because we played him away at Colchester, and I think he got injured a little bit after that. So he's been out of contention. So, I can understand players getting frustrated. It is always a bit of an odd one having to play a whole season pretty much on the bench, where you're not really. You can't be wishing your colleagues to get injured, and there's only so many cup games that you are going to play. So if he's frustrated and he's going to be a bad egg in the camp, then maybe it's better that he goes out. But he's a class goalkeeper by all accounts. And you spoke at the beginning of the season, Bill, about how important it was to have an experienced, quality backup goalkeeper if you're going to actually have the chance of surviving if someone gets injured, because we almost paid a big price last season for not having a good backup.
Yeah, I mean, we did. And, and talking about, say backups, obviously Raya, and just going back to the Liverpool game, had a really good game, pulled off a couple of saves. If you actually, I actually went back and looked. I record every single Sky game and never watch any of them back. But this is the first time I actually sat down and watched the whole of the 90 minutes back, listened to the comments of the pundits and everything like that, which is quite nice to listen to afterwards as well. We'll talk about how, the pundits and the media are treating Brentford actually, but that was also nice to listen to back as well. Obviously, Raya's opposite number, Alisson as well, who, to be fair, he pulled off he pulled off some saves. I think he pulled off one tremendous save, in fact, as well. Alisson, which could have been worse for Liverpool if it wasn't for him. And it's interesting to see sort of the Brazilian and the Spanish guy from one end of one of the pitch into the other, and to kind of sort of see that we were, I would say that in effect our stock, which is Raya, because I see him as stock, sort of matching Liverpool stock. I mean, you could see Raya actually in that Liverpool goal at the same time. He's a great keeper. I think he's a really, really good keeper, Alisson, but you can at the same time see Raya in that Liverpool goal. Could you? Not we want him there, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think we've said a few times that David Raya, he could be in any of those top teams. I think he's not quite tall enough. I think that might put one or two off. But he's just like the most perfect goalkeeper for Brentford, and I think the sell, if it actually needs a sell from the DOF, from Phil Giles, is that why would you want to go elsewhere? I mean, it's up to Brentford to kind of match what he could earn, or not match what he could earn, but sort of like get closer to like bridge that gap between what we're paying him and what someone else would. But he's being picked for his country at Brentford. He's beaten. He's included. He's included in the team, and he's part of that incredible momentum that we're building. Do you really want to jeopardise that to go elsewhere? And he might find himself in a Strakosha situation and be sat on the bench waiting for his turn at one of those big clubs. It's kind of careful what you wish for. He's earning a lot of money already, and I'm sure we can make that a little bit more, or quite a lot more. But my advice to all of those players that play for us is just like, careful what you wish for. You're in an incredible moment in time at Brentford, and it's something you should kind of like forfeit at your peril, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, look, just coming back to the game. I mean, 2-0 up at half time, and I mean, I'll be honest with you. I kind of like I wasn't phased at half time. I thought it was comfortable. I thought it was completely comfortable. I thought that we did really well. We took our chances really well. Yeah, Liverpool had the ball and they're passing the ball around and doing whatever. But I did not feel nervous at any stage during that first half as well. Also, because we're football fans, we have a lot of respect for, opposition players that come to your ground. You have, respect for them. Harry Kane, like I see him play for England. I think he's a great player. So it's really good to see these players on your turf. The same with Liverpool, Alexander-Arnold, as we know him, Van Dijk, you've got Fabinho, you've got Salah, you've got Nunez, you've got the Ox, even Robertson. I was quite glad that Robertson didn't start the match, actually, because I thought that he did us quite a bit of damage. I think it was at their place. Actually went up to Liverpool as well. He had a really, really good game. So he came off the bench. But that was good. But I'm going to say at half time, the fact that, and he's a player who I've got a lot of respect for, he's really wicked. The fact that Van Dijk came off at half time, for me, that told a big story, don't you think?
Yeah, that was, whether he was injured or he wasn't fully fit when he started the game, that's not our problem. But we did cause him problems. The ball over the top or around the side of him. Brian Mbumo was through on goal. He'd beaten Van Dijk, and Alisson did pull out an incredible save. Brian with his right foot. And he was going for the kind of like the kind of near post. Maybe Brian could have done better. So it could have been. We could have had the ball in the net 5 times in the first half. But so Van Dijk was hooked at half time, and they were struggling. They were struggling from the off, and Klopp. He for some reason just had a bee in his bonnet about us being direct. We were direct. We scored. We had the ball in the net 3 times from the corners. What are you supposed to do from a corner, Bill? I thought if you got a corner, you put it in the middle, don't you? You put a cross in.
Our corners are really good.
You bring throughout history, you bring your defenders up and put the ball in the net and ball in the area, because that's what a corner allows you. I think what we're supposed to do: pass it back to Raya and build from the back from our own corner. It's just like nonsense. And their goal came from a long ball, did it not? It is hypocrisy throughout of this. You've got a beautiful ball into the area for Oxlade-Chamberlain to score. Surely that's a long ball. Surely that's direct. It was no more long ball and direct than Matty Jensen putting a crossover for Wisa to head in. It's an equal like a ball into the area, and it's part of the game. And I don't think we ought to be not ridiculed, but kind of it's almost like we're playing some sort of Wimbledon-esque football from the 80s, which is just utter bullshit.
Okay, the first question I'm going to ask you is that if it's direct, what's the problem? What's the issue? Because at the end of the day, is that if you're a football team and you're a football manager, surely you should be able to deal with everything. And I think the issue that we have here, and this is the issue, the thing about it is that, and this is, I suppose, where it comes down to maybe Brentford as a younger team who have come into this division, and we'll go, tell you what, we'll just go with the flow. We'll just do what we have to do, and we'll have a look at all these other teams and we say, tell you what, this is how we're going to play against Wolves. This is how we're going to play against Fulham. This is how we're going to play against Crystal Palace. This is how we're going to play against Liverpool, right? And Manchester City. Right, we're not going to match Manchester City pass for pass because it's absolutely pointless. So what we're going to do is that we're going to exploit X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C, and that's what you do. And that's what a good manager does. Now, if you're saying, as a club, we have to stick to certain principles for every single game throughout our eternity, because that's what we do, because that's what our club ethos is, which I do understand that to a certain extent, then surely you're going to become a bit of a cropper. Because if you come against a team who is more physical than you, who is faster than you, who do certain things that are different to you, if you continue to try and play the football that you can do, you may find that you are not able to get the results that you want to get. So surely as a manager, you have to work out how you play against different teams, right? And the teams who are able to change their game up and play the type of football that they need to for each game is the one that's going to be most successful, surely. And that's what I don't get about Klopp's comments, because it's almost like he's trying to say, well, I believe that football in this whole league should be played in one particular way, the way that we play it, because he knows, if everyone plays it the way that we play it, we'll probably win, 90% of the games, because that's what it doesn't work like that. And that's where I think he's kind of like, he's a little bit bitter, because it's kind of like, I understand having principles, but sometimes, mate, you need to just realise that you need to change it up a little bit.
Look, you got to remember, a team in our position, or in the pecking order, you'd be just naive in the extremes just to play the same way. It's like what Bielsa did at Leeds. He played the same way regardless of who he was up against. He was like super principled, and they thought that was genius, and it wasn't. It was idiocy. You can't keep making, if you haven't got the players to compete. You can be as principled as you want. They're gonna suss you out, and they're gonna outplay you because they've got players that are better than yours. And Bielsa paid the price for that. He may have taken them up, and they might still love him, but it was naive. Thomas Frank is not naive. He's super clever. To give Klopp his due, if you listen to his press conference in his entirety, but you listen to it backwards. You listen to the last 3 minutes first, and then you work your way to the beginning. He actually does sing our praises quite a lot. He says that, Thomas Frank is, he's a clever guy, and he's a super nice guy. He says that he admires what Brentford are doing. He says there's nothing wrong with playing it long against him, but then he did say that we do play football against other oppositions. He knows, but I guess he can't. He's a Liverpool manager. They won the European Cup. They won the title. He can't go in saying he's been outplayed by Brentford. That's not a good look for a Liverpool manager. So I kind of get it, but I just think he came over a bit too saucy, and it doesn't stack up. I lost a little bit of respect for him there, but hey ho, we move on, and we get used to that. I guess it's kind of backhanded compliments of some of the best ones.
Indeed. So listen, let's go back to Monday, and let's go back to the terraces. Let's go back to the stands. Let's go and listen to what the fans had to say, the Brentford fans and the Liverpool fans in the stands and also in the pub after the game.
It was fantastic. I mean, every player on our pitch was brilliant. Even when we made the substitutions, it didn't make us any worse, like it did against Tottenham. That was magnificent throughout. Rico Henry must be the best player in the Premiership right now, in any position, because he played all over that pitch anyway, left, right, midfield, up front. It was magnificent. Absolutely brilliant performance, really good goals. I mean, VAR was like massive in that game, and we could have had 4 or 5. Absolutely magnificent performance. Brilliant.
It wasn't a bad start to 2023, was it? Yeah, no.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year to all the listeners too. Yeah, no, that was a very, very good performance. Fantastic to see Wita score a goal. Even better to see Brian get in as well, because he put in a real shift today. We turned up wondering what would happen without our sort of leading goal scorer. Who worries? Who cares? Liverpool weren't bad today at all, but actually Brentford were just better. We are a great team. Roll on, next game.
Just before we scored that third goal, I didn't take the point. It was base to the wall for so much of that second half.
You think so?
Yeah, okay, Thomas Frank will say we didn't concede, there were no big chances. But let's face it, we were hanging in there. We were hanging in there for so much second half.
You think so?
But look, Thomas Frank would have told them, look, the chances are going to come. And look, Brian did what a phenomenal finish that was for that third goal. Absolutely extraordinary.
It was fucking brilliant. I loved it. Absolutely brilliant. I'm so proud of every single one of them. We fought really hard. I was a little bit worried when they got that goal very early in the second half, but God, we deserved that. And 10 points in those 4 games is flipping brilliant. Unbelievable. Got the win. Special mention for Rico, who was flipping even more brilliant than he normally is. And Matty has got a song. I'm going home really happy.
Oh, do you know what? For starters, I just want to say I'm really happy for the few people that were been alive. The last time we beat Liverpool, which was 1938, I found out. So, if they were allowed to see that, that's amazing. But, we just turned up. We just wanted it from the off, didn't we? First half, Liverpool didn't have a look in. We could have been 4-0 up. Obviously, the 2 disallowed goals. But that all gets inside Alisson's head at the end of the day. He's conceded 4 goals inside the first half. And we had our little struggle that we always tend to, about 60 minutes, 70 to 75, that 15 minutes. But Frank knows what he's doing. He times the subs perfectly, he's patient with it, waits for that 70-minute mark, and it clearly paid off. I was a bit confused why Mbeumo stayed on, and that third goal was obviously why he needed to be there. He was hungry enough for it.
We've come down here today probably expecting to win, at the least to get a draw. Third place is, you were the better team through the whole 90 minutes, at least the first half. You dominated so much, it was frightening, you were so good. Second half, I thought we were better, still not good enough. And you got the third goal, game over, we left. We come back to this boozer now. The Brentford fans are so good to us. It's just been fantastic. So hospitality is fantastic. We love coming here. We'll be back again. Thanks very much.
I think it was a fantastic game today for Brentford. I think Brentford, the first half, I think he just took over the game. I think he was very, very good in the game. And I take my hat off to say it was a great performance. I said, but I thought we was back in it when we got the goal back, but unfortunately it was a mistake by our defenders that give you the 3-1 league. And but I would say, what a fantastic performance by Brentford, and I made up for a team like Brentford to where they was and to where they are now. I think that's fantastic. In the day of financial, the money that's in the game at the minute, I think Brentford's doing a fantastic job, and I would like to say, brilliant.
I wouldn't say out-tax him. It's just Liverpool's midfield is the problem, and Klopp can see it, but unfortunately he needs to address it and address it quick.
Brentford were absolutely phenomenal, absolutely brilliant. I mean, going through some of the players, Rico Henry, absolutely immense. The guy was popping up on the left, he's popping up on the right, he was winning challenges. He personified that kind of hunger and greater desire that the Brentford players had tonight. And I'm sure that Liverpool get this all the time, where teams they play against and players they play against up their game by 25-30% every single time, motivated by playing against Liverpool. But no excuse, Liverpool were tactically outdone today. Physically, Brentford were just too much for them. We showed that we can play without the Tony tactics, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but when Tony is playing for us, we play in a certain way, and it really suits us, and it really helps us, pick holes in certain teams. But it all comes back again to Thomas Frank being an absolutely brilliant tactician, and they just spotted Liverpool's weaknesses and absolutely exploited them to the absolute max. And I'm so proud of our team tonight. It was absolutely brilliant what Thomas Frank set them up to do to hurt a team like Liverpool.
So there you go, the fans after the pub, and that was listen. If you've got a bit of time, just half an hour, when you're doing your ironing or cooking dinner or something like that, just go back to prideofwest.london and go and check that podcast out in the ground and also in the Globe after the game. It was quite potty. There was a lot of pottiness going on, a lot of dancing, a lot of singing. There was a lot of it was just going from left to right. It was all over the place. Everyone was very, very happy. And also, it's interesting, you hear there, the Liverpool fans also were paying us some due respects, which was interesting. But what I would say is, listen, Brentford had come into the Premier League and we're doing it. And you could hear beforehand, people used to slag us off all the time, but people are coming on board. And like I said, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but they're giving us props, and people are giving us props, and also opposition fans are giving us props. So I'm saying, now I feel that the time may be quite soon where the props that we're getting even from opposition fans might come to an end, because at the moment I think they feel us like we're sort of kind of like we're non-competitive. We're like, we're not a danger to them, and we come in there. There's a little bit like, nice Brentford, we like you. There's a really good laugh and everything like that, and it's fine. So you go up to Newcastle and they're all really lovely, and they beat us 5-1, and they're like, that's fantastic. You're really great. You are. You get West Ham Villa, beat you 4-0, beat you 4-0. Yeah, we get beat there, and everywhere like that. Then all of a sudden you start beating them. and there's a little bit of unhappiness that comes out because they're all happy, like we win or lose, but win or lose, we're on the booze. So win or lose after the game, Western Villa 4-0, we all went back to the pub. All of us, we went back to the pub after the game. We sat there, we drank with the Villa fans, we stood in the pub for 2 or 3 hours, and you go home. Because we're Brentford fans, and that's what we've done for years. Because you're kind of used to you're used to just being rubbish, basically. So it doesn't matter so much. But what happens is that a lot of the Liverpool fans who I was hoping would come back to the pub afterwards, no interest, didn't come back at all, didn't see them. Oh, so no, just disappeared, went home. It's like, that's not really the game. And also, quite interestingly, we had those really nice Liverpool fans who were chatting to us, but there's one of them who started to go a bit mental. And he started shouting and swearing at us and saying, you think that you've won the European Cup, you have, blah, blah, blah. We've won more games than you. We're like, listen, calm down, mate. We're just singing and celebrating because we've just beaten Liverpool. They're a very good side for the first time since 1930-something. But there was a bit of unhappiness from this character, and his friends had to sort of calm him down a little bit. And I just thought to myself, tell you what, if we carry on beating these teams next year and the year afterwards, they're not going to be so happy coming down to nice little Brentford, because at the end of the day, it's not kind of the same experience as what they're expecting coming down there, beating us 2 or 3-0 and then going back home again. Yeah. And so, you know what I'm saying, don't you, Lane?
Yeah, we saw that with Middlesbrough, didn't we? They were all happy, weren't they, when they were coming down to Brentford and winning every time, And
they won about 7 times in a row, and they were so happy, weren't they?
And they didn't come back to the pub at all when we started beating them, and it was pointed out. But you've got to be a good winner and a good loser, surely. I mean, I guess in our evolution, the next stage is for us to kind of get to be kind of like a Leicester City, where
Leicester
and Leicester City, yeah, where we are good every year and we're competing, upper bracket.
Except for this year, of course.
But apart from this year, you are going to get. They're too good to go down still, but you are going to get shit years.
Too good for this league, yeah.
Yes, they are too good. They're too good for they won't go down. So that's for us to prove if we can do that. That's the next. That's what Thomas Frank and that's what Phil Giles and that's what Benham will be invested in and seeing if we can do that. They've said every year incrementally we they want us to get better and better, and we're doing that, and we're starting to take scalps. And of course, you're right, Bill. Other fans won't like it when little old Brentford are beating them on their patch. And starting to do the double on them. I'm sure West Ham don't think of us as, little insignificant West London minnows anymore. We've beaten them 3 times, and there's a chance we'll beat them for the 4th on Saturday. We beat Man City at their patch. We do it at our place. Doing the double over Man City is unheard of for someone like us. But it's all possible. Can we go to Anfield and win? It's going to be a colossal test. They want revenge, but it's possible. That's for us to, as I said, that's for us to prove that we can step it up and we can go to another level. I know we were singing about we're going on a European tour. I don't want that yet. I can wait for that for a little bit longer.
It's good. It's a good song. It's a good song to sing.
It's a great song, though.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't go. I said this as well the other day. I said I don't want to go on a European tour because I'm already sort of struggling to fit everything in. This is just a personal thing for me, and the idea to say, excuse me, I'm popping off to Slovakia on a Tuesday afternoon. You know what I'm saying? To come back on a Friday, late on a Friday, to cram that in with everything else that's going on. That's just going to be just on the next level of whatever. But if it does happen, just have to deal with it. Just going back to this game, Laney, I'm just looking at the summary for this game. So where Brentford were good, they created a high number of chances relative to their position. We also created goal-scoring opportunities from the flanks and also goal-scoring opportunities from counter-attacks, and we were strong at finishing, which is interesting because normally, again, that's what lets us down. But we were strong at finishing. Where our weaknesses were, we lost possession often, and we were also caught offside often. We had high shot frequency when in possession. We favoured crossing the ball. We had long balls and we favoured through balls as well. Liverpool, their strengths, they're effective at creating goal-scoring opportunities from long shot situations. Again, and also creating goal-scoring opportunities from the flanks. They were caught offside often and committed a high number of individual errors. They had a large quantity of possession in our half, attack through the middle, and dominated possession. So that was kind of like the match summary. Top performers according to WhoScored.com were Brian and Boomer at 7.8, Ethan Pinnock at 7.7, Johan Wieser at 7.6. Then you had the Ox 7.5, and then Norgard at 7.4. So basically all Bs in there except for the Ox as well. Tackling wise, it was Vitale, Rico, Benwee, Mads Rodslev, and then you had Fabinho in there with a couple of tackles as well. But Vitale Janelt with 5 tackles was by far the biggest tackler of the game. So I'm just giving a little picture of that game where if you look at that, you sort of think, to be quite honest with you, it's almost like, I would say Liverpool just weren't up. It's just that they weren't up for it. And I know a lot of people say Liverpool were rubbish, but it's kind of like the way that we played our football, they just couldn't hack it.
Our game plan worked perfectly. That wasn't nothing. We didn't go out there and just see what happened and just ran around and reacted to what they did. We were well organised, and we let them have possession, and we soaked it up, and we hit them on the break, and we made the most of those dead ball corner situations. We looked like every time we got a corner we were going to score, and it was just incredible, and we just varied it. First one went near post, second one went in the middle, and third one went back stick. And it caused all kinds of grief, and they couldn't have more experience in their team. If they can't cope with that, it's just the fact that we adapt in play as well. Our patterns of play are excellent, and we seem to flip it up, and we're not predictable, and that's when we're at our best, because we've got the players to stretch the very best, and these wins are not coincidental. There's 2 what I think are brilliant articles that we've put on the Besotted website this week. First one by Jim Levac, second one from Lewis Holmes. Both look at the kind of like the press and the establishment's reaction to the Brentford win. Jim saying that we're not getting credit where credit's due, and Lewis kind of saying long may that continue. So they're not completely opposed to one another, but they both offer like 2 very interesting, very humorous kind of insights into how little old Brentford are being kind of reported. So head over to besotted.com, and there on the homepage the links to them, or head over to our Twitter or our Facebook page, and just scroll through the timeline, and there's plenty of links to those articles there, both well worth a read, Bill.
And I mean, you talk about that article. I mean, we're talking about also the media. Well, now the media, because there's been a bit of reaction about how the media's react to us. We always talk about this because obviously, no one was interested in us before, and then all of a sudden, everyone hated us, because we did the Moneyball thing, and we got rid of Warburton as they thought, and we were buying players by using computers and all this nonsense that they were talking about now. But all of a sudden, it's like bam. And that's flipped on its head now. They'll go, oh, we love Brentford. Oh, this and the other, it's really good. Oh, they're very nice. Pat them on the back, which is cool. But then, and then they thought we'd come and then go, but we're still here. But then you kind of got these sort of kind of key players who are big sort of mainstream players who have kind of been shouting from the houses about us, To be fair, Carragher is one of them, Neville is another one. Those are the 2 players who are obviously big mainstream TV guys as well, who are kind of shouting about it and saying, look, I don't care what anyone else says. I really love it down there. I love their football. I love their attitude. I love everything about them. They're a breath of fresh air. And then you've got other people in certain parts of the media who some of them are going, actually, tell you something, I quite like them. And some of them you feel they've been pulled in. They're thinking, to be quite honest with you, we've been saying whatever we've been saying for however long, but we can't really go with that anymore because we've got no validity in our argument. So they flipped it. Some of it probably with gritted teeth, but other than saying, to be fair, I probably made a bit of mistake here, and now I'm kind of on board. However, you also got the situation where, say for example, we beat Liverpool. Instead of saying how well we may have played and how clever our manager would have been, all the focus is on how bad Liverpool is. We beat Chelsea 4-1, and it's like, oh God, how they've crumbled, how they've fallen, how they're terrible, rather than how clever we've been to exploit them. We beat Man United 4-0, and they get the same thing. Oh my God, it's all falling apart for Man United. You know what I'm saying? So we got this scenario again, which is very similar to how it's always been for Brentford. You're always like the second person who's always been given the credit. You're not given the credit as such, and we're not saying it on a boo-hoo say. We're just saying, look, this is just the fact. This is probably the life of being of a Brentford fan, and we kind of get used to it. But we're thinking, when will it change? When will people actually say, to be quite honest with you, there are many ways to skin a cat, and look at the way that they're skinning the cat, and maybe what they're doing is probably quite clever, and maybe if the England team had kind of skinned the cat maybe 2 or 3 or 4 different ways, or looked at doing it, they might have done a little bit better than they've done so far. Just things like that, because we're so used in this world to just doing things one way. I think in the footballing world, this is the way, it's the football way. And they're just thinking out the box sometimes isn't their thing.
Do you think it strikes me sometimes it's kind of almost like a line. There's an above the line and a below the line kind of understanding and appreciation of what we do. It's almost like there's a lot of kind of fan media. They get it, they understand it, because there's a kind of almost an honesty. I'm not talking about social media and Twitter and stuff like that. There's loads of ignorance there, but I'm thinking about the respected kind of the Redman TV, the Liverpool Way, the Anfield Rap. They've been very, very quick to kind of give us our props. I just think that there's a lot of pundits that they've not researched us. They don't know enough about us, and they're asked for an opinion on us. And they're like the second season syndrome merchants, where they got to say something. They don't really know anything, but they'll just say that, and it makes them sound like they've got like a soundbite, or they've got kind of an opinion, something to pin an opinion on. It's not based on fact. It's not based on evidence. It's not based on anything from their eyes, because they've not watched us. And then obviously there are people like Carragher and Neville and Lineker that do get us. They even Roy Keane has said he enjoys Brentford. He likes Thomas Frank, and they kind of get it. I think there's a whole swathe in the middle that the only thing they really watch is the Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, the Man Cities, the Liverpools. That's really where they get their paychecks from, commenting on them. We're just a bit whatever. So yeah, that's an observation. I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems to be a chunk of in that middle ground that they just don't know enough about us. And I listen to the Guardian weekly, and I like them all individually, and they've got really good principles, and they're really decent humans, and they do know a lot about football. They know bugger all about us, and I know you don't tune in to get your Brentford coverage there, but if they're going to talk about us, at least kind of know something about us. You know what I mean? It's a bit like, just don't say anything, which they quite often do. They just breeze past us. But again, a lot of these topics are covered in Jim's and Lewis's articles. So yeah, head over to Besotted and have a read, and then be interested to know your opinions on those topics as well.
Yeah, I tell you something also what's quite interesting. What I decided to, because when I decided to watch, I wanted to watch the TV coverage as well, because, and I'm going to mention his name, and I'm not mentioning it because I'm not slagging him off or anything like that, but I'm mentioning his name because he's been part of the kind of mainstream media who has been quite negative about Brentford. Now listen, everyone's got their own opinion, which is fine, but the fact is it's not backed up with any facts, which has really killed me. Now Michael Richards, okay, I really love the fact that he's got to where he's got, and he's got his profile and he's doing his thing and everything like that. But I was actually on Radio 5 Live once with him, and I kind of went toe to toe with him. I'll have to dig out the interview again. And he kind of pulled back on what is, because his views on Brentford, when he's saying things by himself is fine. But, when you're against somebody who's actually knows everything about Brentford, he could say one thing and I could actually counter it straight away. So I was countering a lot of things that he was saying. Now, I remember there's one thing that he said to me. He goes, Brentford, he goes, I don't get Brentford. It's all bluster. I think what his word was. It was all bluster. It's all kind of a lot of just like bloom, bloom, bloom. It's almost like he felt that, we were built on a lot of hype and a lot of kind of running around and just doing things and then just kind of confusing the opposition. And eventually that's going to go away. And then he talked about the fact that his mate was Scott Hogan, and Scott has told him quite a lot about Brentford and he knows what we're all about. And to be quite honest with you, he just didn't buy into it. No, I kind of understand that, but there was no reasoning behind kind of what he was saying. And he's kept that up for all season. And, the fact that we stayed up, he had all the reasons. Now, interestingly, he was there at New Griffin Park on Monday. But then he said to me, actually, this is the first time I've ever been to Brentford, which I thought, this is interesting. And all of a sudden, it was like, oh, mate, it's wicked here. Oh, the vibe is great. Oh, the football they play is great. Oh, this is really great. Oh, that's really great. And he was like there, he's dancing and, free from desire. And I was thinking, this is hilarious. Like I'm saying, how easily is somebody sort of kind of reeled in to Brentfordness, like I'm saying. And because we haven't done anything different probably than we have done over the last year and a bit. So has it taken him to have gone into our stadium to actually kind of be sold by it? Or is it the fact they thought, I can't hold my ground anymore on hating on them because I'm going to look like a complete and utter idiot?
Well, he is. you know my opinion on him. He's obviously got a brilliant agent. He's on absolutely everything. And very rarely am I impressed by anything that comes out of his mouth. It's a shame because he's in an incredible position, but I think he bluffs a lot. I don't think he researches. I think he just turns up and talks and turns up and laughs a lot. I think that's his like unique selling point. He laughs. And I'm sure he frustrates the hell out of Carragher and Neville, who are both very, very knowledgeable football pundits. So I can't have any more respect for the pair of them. I think Mika Richards is punching as far as I'm concerned. But there you go. That's just my opinion. And good luck to him, though. As I said, he's got a great agent.
That's right. I mean, that's your opinion. Tell you what we're going to find out, though. We're going to find out what JB's opinion is, especially after beating Liverpool. But JB is our man with some facts and some funk. We're going to go to JB to find out what the facts and the funk are post-Liverpool.
Are you ready for this? I told you it was coming. Who? JB. And he's ready to sock it to you one time. Get it.
Hello, Jonathan Birchall back again. For so long, Brentford's history has been dominated by the success back in the 1930s. Slowly and surely, this current side has rewritten it. We had last beaten Liverpool in 1938, and before Monday, they were the last of the present Premier League sides, who we hadn't beaten since before the war. Even without Ivan Toney, it was the fifth league game running that we scored at least 2 goals. We've never done better in the top tier, and not achieved more since 2001 in the third tier under Steve Coppell. Ivan and Brian have started 16 league games together this season, yet have only once been on the score sheet together, against Leeds. Whereas in the 2 games without Ivan, Forest being the other, the strike partnership of Wissa and Brian have both scored in both games. This season we played Gillingham for the first time ever in the League Cup. The first time we ever played them in the FA Cup was back in 1926-27 in the second round. That season, our fourth round opponents were West Ham, in our only other FA Cup meeting with them, which we won in a replay. One new piece of history that will be made on Saturday, it will be the G-Tech's first FA Cup tie with fans in attendance.
JB, more facts and more funk. More 2023 funk as well. So listen, talk about 2023. Obviously, the 2023 comes and the transfer window is open. We're going to I'm going to go to the bar here, and I'm still in the Orchid. Actually, it's really funny. Like I said to you, I'm not even. I'll be sitting in the corner. I've got the DJ boxes. I've got the DJ speaker. They set up the DJ speaker in the corner here as well. The DJ was setting up. We had some characters just at the current, just to the left of me. People are sitting at the bar to the right of me. I've literally plotted myself up in the corner with my microphone and my laptop. I've got portable studios anyway, mate. That's how it goes. But I'm going to go to the bar, get another pint of Guinness from the Blue Orchid in Ruislip. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the transfer window. So transfer window open and the Bees touch right in. And we've got our first signing, Kevin Schade. I believe it's Shade as opposed to Shader, even though there's been already sorts of Slim Shady. People have been asking, Schade. Lighter shade of grey.
Smooth operator.
So, everyone's going to ask whether or not he's going to come on to M&M on the stadium, which is quite bad. But anyway, wherever that may be, he's just now signed to us from Freiburg, who are in the German Bundesliga and doing very well in the German Bundesliga at the moment. Now, I believe they're second as well, which means that they're probably like a Brentford of the Bundesliga, but doing very well at the moment now. A traditional number 9, or he wears the number 9, or he's wearing number 9 for Brentford. Okay, but he's actually a winger. And if you watch any of the videos of him, the best way to describe his actions, he's like shit off a shovel. He's very, very fast. He's a very, very quick player. Again, I'm not saying that I predict this, but if you check the Observer article that I wrote as well, guardian.co.uk, I think it is, or .com, whatever like that. And we did the midterm articles. All the fans talked about how their season's gone so far and what they'd like in this transfer window. And I just said I would like somebody who was shit of a shovel. A very fast player who basically can play on the wing and basically plays an attacking midfielder. And bing, he comes out of the blue, Kevin Schade as well. There was rumours about us getting him, I think, in last summer as well. Didn't quite come about, but obviously you've been tracking him for quite a while. A very exciting signing, don't you think, Laney?
Yeah, but from what I hear, and from what the rumours are, is a German football analyst called Adam Kahn, who's been commenting on the transfer on the site's Twitter feed. He just said enjoying. He's a massive talent in German football from an academy that routinely gets overlooked from the prospects it produces. He said if we're looking for a talismanic striker, he's not your man. He's not an out and out number 9 as we would understand. He's no direct replacement for Tony as it stands. But as yet, we bring players in not for what they're currently doing necessarily, it's for what we've seen the potential into making them into something that we want, and it may take a while, or he may walk straight into the team, and a la Yanel, and we just all go, my God, this is the player that we've been waiting for. This is the speed and the width that we've been missing since Ben Rama. Lewis KLP, he's yet to prove that he is that person. He's had a few sort of glimpses. He's not really established himself. He came on, I know, towards the end of the Liverpool game, and he was injured. So I'll cut him some slack. He's young, but we paid a huge amount of money for him, and we have done for Kevin Schade as well. So I think it's these kind of 20 million plus kind of transfer fees. That's kind of it's seen as a bargain, I think, now, but it still makes me pinch myself and think, my God, 20 million quid. That's incredible.
I mean, it is, and it's mad because where you're at. You talked about KLP. A lot of people have been disappointed with him because I think they expected, because we paid so much money for him, that he's going to come out of the traps and he's going to be absolutely delivering. He's going to basically, firing us at all cylinders. And you can see that he's still got a lot to learn. He's come from Hull and he's got to try and get himself to. And I'm going to say this as well. The truth is that we are a top 10 Premier League side at the moment now. That's a massive gulf. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you said you're going to come in and you're going to come in like Norwich and you're going to be in at 20th or 19th or maybe 18th in a Premier League side, then yeah, you might make a little bit of a dent on that side and you'll get a game every week and they'll try and pull you out of whatever hole you're in. But no, we're not. We are actually kind of competing in the top level of the Premier League. And as you said a bit earlier, Laney, get your flights booked. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're going on a European tour, whether or not we are or not, but we're kind of in that position now. So this is where these players that are coming in have to slot into, and it isn't that easy. But it's about Brentford and the gamble and where they see these players going. So KLP, probably in a year's time, yeah, mate, this is where you're going to be going to. Slim Shady, as we've got here as well, this is where we think that you're going to be going to. From what I can gather, he's playing on the right. Okay, so he's playing on the right. So I'm trying to work out whether or not he's taking place of Brian and Mbumo, whether or not Brian and Mbumo he's playing off of Tony. So the two of them are playing together just off of Tony, but he's the speed man off of Tony. You've got Brian and Mbumo, and then you've got whoever it is on the left hand side, whether or not it's KLP or Visa, and you've got kind of sort of quite a lethal combination, quite a lethal attacking combination. But that's what I can gather. But what I can gather eventually as well is that, maybe he's the type of player that we'll be actually turning into, like we did with Ollie Watkins, where this is where you start off, but this is where we're going to make you, because I think where they see is all the key factors that he has is where he's very, very good and where they can make better, where you can actually, you create the chances, you're actually kind of, you're getting yourselves involved. I think that where they see Shady going in the next 2 years is maybe where Ivan is at the moment now. So it kind of gives us the option, because we always talked about the fact that we have never had an option other than Ivan Toney. If he's out, okay, it's great. I tell you what, Weiss has done. He's done absolutely brilliant, But the fact is, if you know that you've got somebody else who's coming through who maybe not now, but in a year or 2 years' time is going to be the new Ivan Toney, I think that's really great. And the thing about Ivan is, and we know Ivan's cool, he's doing very, very well. Ivan does what Ivan does, and if Manchester City or Manchester United or Chelsea or whoever like that come in for Ivan Toney, for a fact that it's going to be very, very difficult to keep hold of him, because they ain't going to be coming in for him for 30 grand or 40 grand. They'll be offering us 70, 80, 85, 90 grand or whatever it may be for that player. He's third top goal scorer in the Premier League at the moment now. He should have gone to the World Cup. If he'd got the World Cup, that would have been in for the roof, and probably he might have been gone by the summer. But that's the scenario now. So again, the succession plan of Brentford, creating players to take the place of the players we've got in, just in case. If Ivan stays, it's great. I think that is just a marvellous thing.
And you see how, our finances have been transformed up until the point of us getting into the Premier League. Although we were doing brilliantly in the transfer market, and we kind of produced a surplus of funds, and we were buying players in for 2s and 3 millions and selling them for 20s and 30s. It was the revenue that we got from the TV in the Championship, although not insignificant, was a pittance compared to the 150 million plus that we're getting every season we stay in the Premier League. So you can say that the 2 seasons that we've been in this division, and it looks like a third. If we can get a third, that's
it is a third. It's the third, lady.
Until it's I'm not gonna quibble with you. Of course, it's the third. When you're looking at almost £500 million, that'd be 450 million pounds. So 20 from that, and our players that we currently have, who are proving their place in the Prem, they are worth. If we're paying 20 million for Schade, then what is Ivan Toney worth? It's 50 plus. It's not 60 or 70. But people will be laughing at this. But why would we sell him unless it's that kind of money? And there was there's a jokey clickbait West Ham site out there at the moment this week. Run a story that says David Moyes had a great chance to sign Rico Henry for West Ham last summer. Summer 2021 for £5 million. Like, what? What on earth are you on about? As if we would ever sell West Ham Rico Henry for £5 million. So, You know, we are in a kind of like a climate now at Brentford where, you know, as I said, we're approaching £500 million of TV money is going to come our way over these 3 or 4 years, however long it lasts, and that just takes you to a different stratosphere. You know, it's incredible. So, you know, although as fans we're not used to spending 20 million on players, you know, we're not going anywhere near to breaking the bank. So, you know, I guess we can be reassured that we're not sort of like spending everything that's coming our way, like, you know, Forest have done this year, and Fulham famously did 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, just talking about the transfer window as well. I mean, other than that, I mean, personally, I'm not expecting any other activity this window. We only normally do activity if we feel that we're going to get ourselves a bargain, or we feel we have to get a player in now that we may not be able to get in the summer, or we feel that, you know, like I said to you, we need to do something to sort our situation out. So, you know, if we look like we're going to get relegated, we might have to get somebody in to avert that. Or if we think we need to get promoted, we need somebody to actually get us promotions. We did in the Championship. That's what we do. We buy players in this window. But other than that, if you're kind of comfortable with what you've got, you don't really tuck in. You wait till the summer. And I'm not expecting us to do any more business this window, but I might be wrong. But what is interesting is that we've actually brought back 3 players who are out on loan. We've got Finn Stevens, who was out of Swansea. He played just 5 games for Swansea. They brought him back. We've got Mads Beck Sorensen, who went to Nice, which you thought, oh, that's quite a good move for him, going out to Nice, because they're flying high at the top of the League One in France as well. But he got 0 games for Nice as well. And we also got Paris Magoma, who went to our friends AFC Wimbledon, and he actually played 18 games for them, and they were raving about him, absolutely raving about him. But anyway, he's come back to Brentford. He's actually injured at the moment now, so he's actually injured, I think, for a little bit. But then afterwards, they're going to actually have a little look at that, and then they're going to probably, because I think there's a bit of interest from Division 1, League One, for the Macoma. So I know that the AFC Wimbledon fans were very unhappy about him going back to Brentford, because they're saying, oh, there's our playoff hopes gone. Oh, there's our chance of going back to Division 1 gone. So key player for them, which I think is good. So it's a loan that really worked out. But it looks like that he might be stepping up a division, hopefully, in the second half of this season, which can only be good for Brentford, isn't it, Laney?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I did read that thread. There was a lot of angry Wimbledon fans there saying, you know, saying some very nasty things actually. But you know, he's our player. He's our player. We'll do what we want with him. Thank you very much. And you know, he might be coming back, so we can have a look at him again. And we've got the whole of January. He could go back to AFC, or he could go elsewhere, or we could keep him. But, you know, he'll be going out again for sure.
He'll be going. You know, he'll be stepping up a league without a shadow of a doubt. He'll be stepping up to Division 1.
One of these loan deals actually generated some minutes for our players, and they're a success. I had an interesting thread that I put up on the Besotted Twitter that's got quite a lot of reactions. You know, after Schade came in, I said, you know, realistically, what else realistically would you be looking to make this transfer window a success? A lot of people saying for David Raya to be bolted down, an extension for Jensen by PJH. K1 Prop has said to sign Dion Drenna Belgio. He's the next Haaland, will cost less than £10 million. There's someone else that suggests that cover for Rico on the left might be a good idea.
Who said that?
Nick, just the truth. Nick has said, left back cover for Rico. And then we've got a couple of others here. Dave Chappelle Corby, he said, to be honest, Ross Stewart, if we can get him from anything close to £10 million from Sunderland.
Rod Stewart?
Ross Stewart.
Rod Stewart. Okay, let's just get him. Yeah. I tell you, it'd be great if we got him, actually.
Yeah. He played for Brentford, did he not? Didn't he have an appearance for us?
He did.
B-team game?
He did.
Yeah, there you go. Get him back again. And someone else mentioned before the Strakosha deal was the announcement that he could go away and find another club for him. Someone else said they were already looking for Raya cover, but we seem to have a lot of goalkeepers. We've got Matty Cox, we've got Balcombe, and we did have Strakosha until we've still got him. He may not find another club, so we have a lot of cover there. Interesting, Matty Jensen. He's got a song now, and people want him to extend his contract. He's class. MDS has said Brereton Diaz from Blackburn. Can't really see that happening. I think he'd be way too expensive, and he's not quite on our trajectory. Chubba Akpom back. I can't imagine that.
Can you imagine the photo? Can you imagine the photo? The photo would be brilliant.
Be even happier than he was last time he signed. And then someone else asking, do you think we'll keep hold of Tony this transfer window? Yes. I don't think anyone's going to buy him this window with a potential with a possible ban hanging over him. So I think he's out of the foreseeable. I think. So yeah, lots of interest there anyway.
But again, you never know with the interjections. I mean, coming back to Schade as well, or Shady as well. Part of the reason why there was a little bit of delay and things kind of got accelerated through is because, from what I can gather, is Everton were a team who are completely and utterly hot on their heels. And Everton are a bit of a weird team because they're obviously not doing very well. They seem to have money, which is Russian money, but then the Everton fans don't seem to have any trust in them be able to sort of kind of deliver anything whatsoever. But however, Everton were in there basically stoking the fire at the last minute, trying to scupper the deal for us. I think the deal had been done pretty much, but still, it could have, until paperwork's been signed, the deal's not done. And I think at the last minute, I think that, Everton were going in there and we kept a little bit quiet about this because we kind of were keeping our fingers crossed that it was going to go through. But, Everton, obviously, probably what happened was that Everton, losing that match a couple of days ago, probably actually struck the deal for us, lady. He said, what the hell should I go there? You know what I'm saying? Absolute nonsense, which is going on down there. And even Ped from Toffee TV, he went on the Sky the other day, interestingly, and he just said, that's it, we've had it, done. Everton are relegated, which I thought, bloody hell, it's only January. And Ped's already saying that he believes that Everton are relegated. I mean, I've been chatting to quite a few of my chums, as you know, I've got a lot of chums, and I've been chatting to my Forest chums. I know a lot of the Bees fans out there really want Forest to go down, not because of Forest, but because of Cooper, because they hate Cooper. I'm not particularly happy with Cooper, but I love Forest because I love going to Forest, and I'd much rather go to Forest next season than Southampton, I have to say. But, I was thinking, I was hoping that Forest would get out of there. And it looks like, they got their win yesterday and Forest are all of a sudden sort of climbing the table, whereas Everton seem to be plummeting right out of there. So, it's going to be quite weird for Everton because if they do go, and I'm just saying if they do, they could be a team with a brand new stadium floating on the river, probably trying to get all these very expensive players playing against, Coventry and, and possibly Plymouth, and Portsmouth and teams like that, isn't it?
Yeah, bunch of floaters. That's what they'll be. I watched the game last night. I bumped into a couple of Forest fans here, and
in Egypt.
I said I watched the game of them, and I want them to go down even more now. To be honest with you.
Oh, really?
They're all right. It's just pub talk, Bill. There's a couple of incidents, but I'll tell you about down the Boozer.
Okay.
Something else that's happened over the new year, which we have to talk about, is Peter Gillam. Peter Gillam was named in the New Year's Honours list. And he received the British Empire Medal. And anyone listening to this who's a Brentford fan will know who Peter Gillam is. He's not a player, he's not a director, he's not a Brentford official. He is the Brentford stadium announcer who has been in that role for 50 plus years. He's been a club employee during that time as well. But every Brentford fan will know him as the most humble, nicest, enthusiastic, rebel-rousing Brentford fan. He's been involved in the travel. He is Mr. Brentford. Everyone knows him as Mr. Brentford, and for Peter, he had a health scare a couple of years ago. Thankfully, it looks like he's through that, but he has been there every minute of my supporting years. His voice is known to everyone. He used to do the team talk. We used to ring up and pay every penny I earned.
Do you remember
every
that?
day.
Do you remember the number? Do you remember the number for Team Talk, lady?
0800 0898
0898. Yeah, no, 0898 12 1108.
I do know. Fuck me.
And I'm going to ask you a question. How many people? And I'm going to ask people. How many people out there used to ring Team Talk from work, from their work phone?
Oh my god, yeah, I'll never do it from home. Yeah, but you
how much
could
was
it.
It was
only
like,
because you had to punch. You could punch it in on the work ones. At home, I had to dial it. You know when you had to get your finger round on the dial, and you used to push. You used to force it back really quick.
Because how much was it? Was it like
it's probably £3 a minute, even then.
£3 a minute, something like that. And you have these interviews, and you're on the phone for like an hour. Like I'm saying, it's like it's like I know.
Didn't they actually have? They did like live second half commentary, or they did live matches on it. So some people would have been on the phone for like 2 hours. Whatever a minute, it was probably the equivalent of a month's salary to listen to a game. So probably, but he's the voice of that. He wasn't earning out of that. It was the club that were earning out of it. But so Peter Gillam, to see him on the pitch at half time. The other thing that was really moving, Bill, and I know you saw that, was all the Brentford fans that had passed during 2022, and they had all their names and photographs up on the big boards. And we've lost a lot of good people this year, Bill, and it's really sad. There seems to have been a spate of people that we knew personally as well. Yeah. I know everyone's a life and everyone's well known, but from our perspective, there was a lot of people that were pretty close to us. So I don't know if you want to give them a name check now as well, Bill.
No, I'll just say to you, you had Beckles, you had Coxey, we had a lot of people that we've known from back in the day, Winstanley as well, who I only met sort of fairly recently, so I haven't known him for that long, but like I said to you, Beckles, I've known him for years as well, which caught me completely out of the blue. And that was actually really sad, and God rest his soul as well. And like I said to you, and Mick Cox is part of our crew, the Besotted crew. I remember him as coming off the QPR bus dressed in his cowboy outfit as well, which is just funny. We had a bit of a sort of a joke because Cameron Diaz said she was a Brentford fan, and obviously she's from Hollywood, so we did a Hollywood bus, and I did a double-decker bus, an open-top double-decker bus to QPR. And I think it's 2002, 2003 or something like that. And everyone dressed up, literally everyone dressed up. We had like flipping Star Wars on there, and we had like Pluto, and we had all sorts of characters in there. And he turned up as John Wayne, and his dad turned up as Pavarotti on this double-decker bus, and flew around the Chiswick roundabout, or the Shepherd's Bush roundabout. Loads of beer flying, and all the QPR fans are running out of their pubs as they heard sort of Brentford fans singing in this double-decker bus with Star Wars and Galen and all sorts of characters in there. It was very, and I'll tell you who was on there as well, and obviously ahead of his time, Slim Shady as well was on there, wasn't he? Do you remember?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
talking of buses and transfers, another fan that's passed, Derek Hazel. Anyone that's ever taken an official Brentford coach to an away game, Derek would have been like part of the organisation team for donkey's years, and he was part of the club's programme shop as well, I believe. So, and obviously Francis Joseph passed recently.
Francis Joseph, man.
It's been a really as brilliant as supporting Brentford has been on the pitch. There's been a lot of sadness off of it. So all our love to the fans who have lost someone that's special to them, part of the Brentford family. It pains us to lose everyone, and I just hope that a lot of Brentford fans that have passed got to see Brentford in the top flight and shared in some of these brilliant moments before leaving us. So hopefully 2023 is less sad.
Hopefully so. But listen, let's move it on, because we've got a game on Saturday, which we're going to talk about, I say, very briefly. We've got West Ham coming on Saturday. I'm going to go to the bar. I am going to get myself a beer, and then I am going to come back, and I am going to talk to Laney about West Ham.
Jelly deals.
So Saturday is the FA Cup. Are you up for the cup, Laney?
No, I'm in Egypt. So I've purposely not up for the cups myself. That frees me up for all the league games. I've needed some sunshine, so I've done it. But no, not up for the cup. Not up for the third round of the cup. Massively up for the fourth round of the cup.
So if we don't get to the fourth round, it'll be your fault.
Yeah, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I mean, it's all about the league this season. It's all about qualifying for Europe, Bill. But
on the European tour.
We've beaten West Ham 3 times now, so now we own them, them outright. Then, but they're due a win. They've not won since October. We've not won since Monday. So it's a real horrible run they've on, and they're not an awful team. So it just depends what team we put out. So we'll see. But yeah, I think a lot of people will be up for the cup, and I think it'll be another sellout. Should be a good atmosphere, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to admit as well, I'm not up for the cup, even though I am going to the game on Saturday, 5:30 kickoff. So yeah, but I'm not. There's not. After Monday, it's going to be very hard to sort of trying to raise yourself, and that's probably going to be the same thing for the team. And it'll probably be quite interesting to see what team he actually puts out on Saturday, because it's almost like, when we got a really good cup run going when we were in the Championship. We got a really good cup. We had a different team going for the cups when we got to the semi-final of the League Cup as we did for the league. And so what you found is that the team that went for the cups was really up for it. They were up for the cup. And it's almost like, it might be a case that we might need to kind of drastically change our side to be up for the cup. And also you have to think of David Moyes as well, because David Moyes is like, is David Moyes really going to be up for the cup? I mean, not be funny. West Ham, they're on a bit of a struggle at the moment now, and the last thing he needs is a cup run at the moment now. So you can imagine that he's not going to be up for the cup. So this could be a moment for us to actually kind of play a few of our squad players as well, and mix them in there and keep the vibe going as well. Against West Ham, who you probably can imagine is going to be playing a few of their squad players, probably including Antonio, because Antonio seems a bit of a squad player at the moment now. He was like a key player for them last season, but he's kind of not even in the mix-up at the moment now. So that could be quite interesting. But, I'm just thinking, Lady, who would you, and again, not many people, but who would you like to see in action on Saturday?
Well, I mean, let's be clear. Thomas Frank has gone on the record as saying that he wants to win something at Brentford. And realistically, that is the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. Then obviously, we got to the semi-finals and the quarter-finals of let's call it the League Cup, the last few years. We got knocked out by Gillingham on penalty. So, that was an upset this year. We missed out on a trip to Wolves, which would have been pretty crap. But, so winnable. So winnable, yeah. So the FA Cup does provide us with a realistic route through to that silverware that Thomas Frank alludes to. Now we'll just see what happens. But you're right, it does give an opportunity to players. We mentioned Lewis Potter. He was on the bench. He came on, so he's obviously fit to start. We've got players that people like Godos that's been around the team and he's been getting minutes. We've got Mads Beck who's back. So there are players that are potentially going to come in and get minutes. I don't think we still don't really know if Ivan Toney's at what the extent of his injury was that had him stretched off at West Ham. there's been talk. Some mentioned, we might see him on Saturday. I don't personally think we will. I think Thomas Frank will use it as an opportunity to read some more minutes. Wiese, as you rightly said last week, Bill, you think he's more effective through the middle than he is on the wing. He proves he is clinical. He's a clinical striker when he gets his chances. The goal at Forest was exceptional. That little dink over the keeper. He could have had a hat trick against Liverpool.
Could have had a hat trick.
Could have, should have, would have. But you've got to be in those positions, and you have got to finish. He did finish. It wasn't his fault that VAR ruled them out for things that weren't his fault. He was offside. The one, for the goal that was disallowed. Then obviously, then we had Ben Mee, who was offside when he smashed it home. So, and then he did a goal that he did, with his header that was like hooked out, but was over the line. So yeah, I mean, on another day, that all three of them count. So he's looking really potent. So I'm expecting us to use it as an opportunity to experiment to see if we can cope with life potentially without Tony for a series of matches. But yeah, I think Wiese will get the nod through the middle, with probably with for KLP out on the left, and and Mbumo will play again, because although he's in good form, I think there's still room for improvement there as well. So it's going to be some interesting. I don't think Norgard will play. I think we'll protect him in that match. But Jensen, I think, will play, and Janelt will play. And we'll see what happens at the back. But does Jensen come back in? Does Pontus come in rather? Probably. We need to protect, Zanka, who I think is just the unsung hero with Ruislip. Everyone talks about Rico, everyone talks about Pinnock, everyone talks about David Raya. No one talks about Ruislip and Zanka. Both of them have been just incredible. The pair of them cost £250,000, didn't they? It's just bonkers that no one really talks about them. So they were both part of the team that won up at Man City, arguably our best result ever. It's brilliant. So I'll tip my hat to them too as well.
Yeah, and what I'll say, but also we have got Finn Stevens back as well, because he's come back, and he's the kind of player that we always seem to slot into games like this. So are we going to give Ruislip, who interestingly Ruislip has always been the player who's been the kind of like the squad player who comes in place of whoever's playing right back, but all of a sudden Ruislip has become a really key player for us. I think was it 6 games in a row that he's played, and he's had some really, really good matches as well. So is this a scenario that we actually rest Ruislip and we actually put in the Stevens in the place?
Yeah, possibly. And let's not forget, we've got Hickey and I have to come back as well. Hands up if you've actually forgotten about Hickey completely. Hands up.
No, I haven't forgotten about him.
Not completely, but he's been out for a long time. And there's not been a lot of chatter about, we can't wait for him to get back. He did start the season pretty well. So I'm not knocking him. It's just that, we seem to have gone to a different level since he's not been in the team. And Ruislip, for all the concern a lot of fans, raised about him being in the team, he just hasn't let us down. What's he worth, Bill?
Okay, that's the questions that you're asking. You've played in the Premier League, you've got a number of games. If he was to move on to another team, how much would you sell him for? And I think this is where kind of the Brentford model comes in. With West Ham, as every single game, I always get one of my chums. I speak to one of my chums and they give us the preview of their team. But to be honest with you, we thought we played West Ham last week, and nothing much has changed from West Ham last week to West Ham this week. So we could have been really cheeky and just taken the West Ham interview from last week's game and put it in here. But we just thought, if you want to just check out what's going on with West Ham, go to prideofwest.london. You check out West Ham Fan TV on the West Ham pre-match podcast, which was less than a week ago. And like I said to you, not much has changed between now and then. I mean, we could have got somebody on to come on and probably talked about how they're not particularly happy with how West Ham have progressed between when they played us now and since the Leeds game that they played, since then as well. Yeah. But we're not going there. We're just moving it forward, and we're just going to be talking amongst ourselves. In fact, we're going to probably just finish this one off here now, because I know Lady has got some, I don't know, you've got some activity out in Egypt to go to, and I know that I've got to probably shoot off back to the Middlesex FA to go and pick up my daughter, who's probably finishing her little refereeing course. She's going to be a referee, I've told her. She's up for it. She's potty for it, you know what I'm saying? So, which is all good. But Lady, I'm just going to say, being up for the cup. Just give us a score prediction. Go, just talk to us. Just give us a little outro and then a score prediction.
I think, as I just said, I think it offers Thomas Frank the opportunity to shuffle it a little bit. I don't think we're going to go too light. It's a game that he will want to win. It's a game that we can win, and it's a game that I think we will win. I think we're going to go 2-1 Brentford, mate.
Oh, there you go. So it's going to go 2-1 Brentford for the Laney and for myself. What I would say is we're going to go. It's really hard because you don't know exactly who's going to play, but I'm sort of banking on the fact that West Ham are we can look at the league, so they're not going to be, is Declan Rice going to play? Is Ben Rama? It's even Ben Rama going to play. I mean, he'd probably play Ben Rama because he doesn't like him. You know what I'm saying? But, so who's going to be playing in that side? So I'm going to say that it's going to be quite an interesting game between two squads teams. Okay. And I'm going to go for a 1-0. Ali Malali says, you always go for 1-0, Bill. And I'm going to go back to my 2-0, actually. I'm going to go back for a 2-0 win for the mighty Bees. So anyway, listen. This has gone on for a bit longer than we thought it was going to do, because I thought me coming in to hear the Blue Orchid, I'm going to have to go and do a quick in and out. But they've been quite accommodating, actually. It's been all good. Like, there's all sorts of characters going on. There's Curry's flying left, right, and centre in front of myself here. I might have to get myself a bit of tucker as I finish here. Got a bit of tucker lined up, lady?
I've eaten already, mate. I've ate very well. And yes, I'm gonna go have another drink, and then I'm gonna go and watch the second half of the Chelsea Man City game, I think.
That's what we need to do. So listen to the Besotted Pride of West London podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on all good podcast channels, and also write us a review on iTunes, and we'll be very happy if you do that, because it goes up in the ranks. Also, don't forget to buy us a beer. besotted.com/beer. Thanks to everybody who has bought us a beer. We will give you a shout out very, 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 very soon, because we're now getting back into the flow as well. If you probably haven't noticed as well, we haven't even mentioned it, have we, actually, Lady? They're actually part of the TalkSport podcast network as well, the fan network as well. We haven't talked about that at all, have we?
No, we haven't. Let's talk about it next week.
We'll talk about it next week, yeah. But we've been part of that for about a month now, actually. But we just thought we'd let you know. So, TalkSport have pulled in a load of fan podcasts, and we're one of the fan podcasts, which we're very happy to be in there as well, which is all good. But other than that, like I said to you, don't forget to besotted.com/global as well. It's our little social media network. Let me say, actually, while I'm here as well, because we haven't mentioned it for the past few weeks, but who actually, Lady, can you remember who actually got the global player of the match for the Liverpool game?
No, I can't. I don't remember. I didn't read it.
Oh, you don't know? Oh.
No, I don't know.
Norgard. There's Norgard, of course. Christian Norgard again. Absolutely tremendous player. Yeah, so he's a Besotted Global player of the match for the Liverpool game. And like I said, you were totting it all up at the end of the season. We'll be actually giving our Besotted Global player of the season, which is all good. But anyway, I've said enough now. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the people that keep coming up to us all the time and been listening to all sorts of stuff. Listen to the World Cup podcast that we did as well, which again too is really, you don't know whether or not people listen to it. Been listening to our recent podcast, listen to our old podcast. Really appreciate all your support. Thank you very much, and it's really good. We've got a load of fans from America and Scandinavia and from the Middle East and all over the place, which have been listening to us. So a big shout out to you, all of you lot. But as we say, we have got West Ham. We are playing them again on Saturday. As we sang last Friday, can we play you every week? We're playing them every week. We do it out for the cup. As we say,
we're forever be in bubbles.
Come on, you bees. Let's beat them hammers.
Beat some more bubbles.
Let's beat the Hammers. They're forever blowing bubbles.
Pop 'em.
Come on.
Brentford FC, come